would seem that the sugar high the Democrats have been on for the past few weeks since Kamala Harris clinched the Democratic nomination, well, they're crashing. Hello, I'm Adrienne BATRA. With me are Lilley and Warren Kinsella. Warren, there is no question in the bloodless coup of the Democratic Party to remove Joe Biden off the top of the ticket, put Kamala Harris into his spot to clinch the nomination without receiving a single vote, which is extraordinary. There was such a surge in the polls for her. Every single of what we look at the 7 big swing states on the path to the road to 270 were all going in Kamala Harris's favor. Now, 3 weeks later, she continues to evade the media. She did one CNN interview, which we can discuss to see how well that went. But it would seem to me that the Harris high is coming down as the polls have basically her and former President Trump dead even.
Yeah, so there's weird things happening. So Nate Cohn, who does aggregating, polls for the New York Times, and Brian's got one of his competitors in a minute. Nationally, she's 3 points ahead of Trump. Wisconsin, she's ahead by 2. Michigan, ahead by 2. Pennsylvania, ahead by 1. Nevada, ahead by 1. But she's behind in Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona by about 1 point. So you look at that and you go, oh, well, she's winning a majority of swing states. She's going to win. No, she's not. And full disclosure, as you guys know, I worked for Hillary Clinton in 3 states 8 years ago, and I've seen this movie before. She will not win if she's just 3 points ahead. She needs to be at least 5 points ahead in the national polls, and she needs to be winning better than she's doing at the moment. Right now, I think, as I said to Brian earlier today, I think this thing is going to come down to about 44,000 votes in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Right now, as you say, Trump and Harris are basically tied. So the Democrats have got to basically scare the crap out of their vote and get them out, because right now, I think a lot of them have gone sleepy.
Aren't they doing that in the email you got?
Yes, I got an email this morning. I sent it to Brian. It was like a 5-alarm fire. We're losing. Trump's ahead. And that's smart, right? Because Hillary got cocky last time. The Democrats got cocky. I saw it close up. I was in their Brooklyn headquarters. It's like, oh, we couldn't possibly lose against this reality TV idiot. Well, they did, because they got cocky. What's interesting about Harris is she doesn't get mad about Trump. She gets even, and she is not taking anything for granted. They are campaigning like they are way behind, not just behind.
Brian, in 2016, of course, Hillary Clinton did lose Michigan and Wisconsin. Those went red, and it had been a long time since both of those states went red. They are the only 2 swing states where Kamala Harris seems to be has any sort of lead, and it's a hair-thin lead. So we see, often we see, watch where they're going. Where are they campaigning? Look at their schedule. You see former President Trump going into Michigan, going into Wisconsin, he had a town hall, big rally in Pennsylvania yesterday. And now we see Kamala Harris going into New Hampshire, very traditionally blue New Hampshire. So with the polling, which you can believe it or not, in 2016, as Warren knows, the national polls had Hillary Clinton, in some cases, double-digit lead at this point in the race. So what does this say for former President Trump in terms of what his path is looking like?
He has to take all of the southern swing states. So we're talking Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, plus at least one of the northern ones to be able to win, to get over 270 electoral college votes. And, I've told Warren this before. We talk about the U.S. election almost weekly on his podcast. And if you're not listening to the Kinsella cast yet, make sure you do. And I keep saying, this is too close to call. Nobody can be cocky on this one. And even John King on CNN was going over the numbers yesterday. And he broke it down to the point where he got Trump to 268, Harris to 269, and it could come down to one congressional college or electoral college vote in the state of Nebraska. Most of Nebraska goes as a block, and then there's one district where it goes independent. And it's a swing one. So, I mean, this is going to be bonkers from here until the election day. But right now, you know, you said Harris is ahead by 1 in Michigan, I think you said, Warren.
Yeah.
And 270 to win
two.
has it even closer.
Yeah.
These things are incredibly tight, and I think Trump will pull below what he actually gets.
That's right.
Part of why Harris has to get above a 1 or 2% win, as Warren was saying. You know, she needs a 3% win. So, you know, we're going to, Warren's just been down in the US. I'll be going down in October. I know we've got other Sun Media colleagues going down and checking out swing states and talking to people. It's going to be a street fight. But
no,
yeah,
I just
watch where they go.
Just spent some time in North Carolina, and it's Trump country. Warren, just more broadly on the numbers, because that's how granular it can get, is just one district and one municipality in one state can be the difference between a win and a loss. And we saw that actually in 2020 in the state of Georgia. It came down to a handful of districts with very few margins in terms of the vote. Though Georgia is looking pretty solid back in former President Trump's category, but the Republicans, regardless of who's at the top of the ticket, generally tend to pull lower in the national average, just like 2016, just like 2020. Again, put partisanship aside, is that something that is a factor in this? The Republicans are not going to win the national popular vote. That's not going to happen, because the Democrats win California and New York way too overwhelmingly. But because Trump's poll numbers nationally are generally lower, does that still mean he can still win? Can he not?
Yes, absolutely. And like, this is a characteristic of conservative vote everywhere. They hide from pollsters. If they didn't hide from pollsters, all of us would have seen Brexit coming. If they didn't hide from pollsters, all of us would have seen Trump winning in 2016.
I saw both those things.
For the record, I saw it in 2016.
Whatever. I didn't. And so, you know, yes, Trump's numbers are understated here. Now, when I was in the United States last week, full disclosure again, you know, doing door knocking for Democrats, it was very interesting what I got. I was telling Brian and some other people about that. You go to a door and you talk to an American about Trump, and they're like, yeah. I know, I don't like him. I don't like him. I know what he's like. There's nothing that he can do that shocks people anymore. But the one thing they all said, Democrats included, to me is, you know, I don't know very much about her. What's her economic policy?
That's right.
You know? What's her healthcare policy? And when we went out door knocking, they gave us, I wish I had it right now, a single sheet of paper, had a nice picture of her on it, and it had 3 bullet points. It was just one-sided sheet of paper. That's all they had. Yeah. If that is all they have, you know, they're going to be in big trouble, because she needs to answer that question. What are you going to do for me? I know what Trump's going to do. He was there before. He's a monkey with a machine gun. He's going to continue to be a monkey with a machine gun. I need to know what you, Kamala Harris, are going to do. And so far, she hasn't answered that question. I think that's why she's dropped a little bit since her convention. At the DNC, she got no lift from the DNC.
No.
You could say, though, the same thing about Trump. And Trump needs to be talking about policy as well, as opposed to talking about her and making fun of her. That can work to a degree. I think it works less so on the national stage than it did when he was running for the primaries in 2016.
Agreed.
He needs to be saying, look, here's what she promised. She said she'd ban fracking. She said she'd get rid of private health insurance, which does not poll well with unionized blue-collar Americans.
That's why she's flip-flopped on both issues.
A good benefits plan. He needs to talk about that. Instead, he is going into the characteristic that Warren says, monkey with a machine gun, and talking about things that won't win them voters. These other issues, the border, that'll win Trump voters.
Yeah.
If he
And
talks
really,
about issues, he will win. But so
well,
far,
it's
he
really
hasn't done it.
simple. It's really simple. It's what they said all those years ago. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And in her CNN interview, Warren, where she had Tim Walz, her VP choice, with her, who didn't say anything. It was bizarre, but besides that, she said that we don't want to go backwards. And the interviewer, of course, has said, well, you've been there for 4 years. Backwards to what? Because what, to your point, and I think we've all experienced this, even for the most ardent, stalwart Democrat, the Democrat dyed in the wool, voted Democrat all their life, is looking at Trump because they're not better off than they were 4 years ago. The economy wasn't as good. Inflation is way too high. Affordability is a crisis, and the border is a problem. Warren, she hasn't been able to answer those charges. She hasn't been able to respond, not only because she's not doing a lot of interviews, but it seems like her numbers drop anytime she does go out in public. So does she just continue with her big rallies to try to push this? Because it just seems like there's not a lot of substance there.
Well, I think, this is a really weird election for all kinds of different reasons. But I was talking to a former Liberal cabinet minister about this morning. And I said, why isn't Trump's charge against her, the one you just outlined, you were there. Going backwards means you were there. You were vice president of the United States. You're part of the failure. Why isn't that working against her? Because it's not to the degree Republicans want. And this very smart former cabinet minister said, because when you become vice president, you become invisible. You disappear. Like it's like a cloak gets dropped over you and you disappear. She disappeared. So it's this weird situation that Trump has now become the incumbent. She's the challenger because everybody's kind of forgotten that she was vice president. So she's benefiting from that. But by the same token, it also means she's running without a record. She needs to get one fast.
Okay, Brian, just final thoughts here. There is going to be a debate in the coming days, probably the only debate that Harris and Trump will likely have. We've seen how President Trump has debated in the past. The last time he debated a Democrat, that person had to leave the ticket. So I think that the Trump team is probably feeling pretty confident in his skills and his abilities. The Harris campaign is going to sequester her for over 5 days, basically, to do debate school. Does that help? Does that hurt? Because the challenge that we've seen with Kamala Harris is that she struggles speaking extemporaneously without notes, without a script in front of her. Final thoughts.
Yeah, that is going to be a problem. Speaking off the cuff is not her strong suit. It's something Trump can do, for hours and hours. And sometimes he makes sense and sometimes he doesn't. His audience doesn't care. They love him anyway. But, the debate's going to be on ABC, the worst network, the most dishonest network. It's going to have George Sloppolopoulos and he's awful. And he's me. I don't know if you caught that clip with Hannity. It was hilarious. But yeah, there's only going to be one debate. This is weird. I mean, we modeled our debate commission on the Americans, and that seems to have fallen apart. And they're only having one real debate between the two main characters. That will be one of the defining moments. And then I think it's next week. And then I was talking with John Wright, the pollster, and he said, wait 6 to 7 days after that, and then you'll know the real result of that debate and its impact on the election.
Well, break out the popcorn because the show is just beginning. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to thetorontosun.com. You're going to find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.